Unit 16, Part 6. So I'm going to show you how to rewrite various formulas of different forms in a domain of two individuals, right? So you'll be asked to prove argument invalid using the model universe method. You will start by specifying a domain of two individuals, A and B, right? Set notation, A, B, A comma B. The argument you're presented with could be one of a number of forms. The first one I'll do is this fairly complicated universal statement, right? Notice the second one is a conditional, okay? So you'll be rewriting this in a different way. And the third one it's a universal statement, but it involves an individual. It's got FA, right? This says something like, for everything in the domain, if Andrew is F, then that thing is F. For all X, if Andrew is F, then X is F. Something like that, right? So the rule for rewriting formulas to specify their meaning in specific domains is always the same in that you're always just rewriting the quantifier formulas, okay? But it turns out that comes out differently for a universal statement like this, right? Where the universal statement will transform into a conjunction, right? So that will be a change of form. For this one, where the major operator is a conditional, again, you'll be translating the quantifier statements into conjunctions, but the quantifier statements are only subformulas of a conditional. So here, what's going to happen is, in the translation, there will not be a change of form, right? As we saw when we rewrite universal statements, the form changes from universal to conjunction, and these translations always result in something in truth functional form. They have to make possible the semantic interpretation, the semantic or counterexample way of showing the argument invalid. Right? Here, this is a conditional. After my translation, the statement will still be a conditional. Right? I'm only rewriting the quantifier statements. Let me do this one first, okay? So this is a conditional. The truth functional form stays in place, right? The result is going to be a conditional, so it's a domain of two individuals I'm rewriting it for, right? This says what? If everything is A, then something is G, right? If everything is A, then something is G. In the domain of two individuals, that means if Andrew is A and if Betty is A, then, okay, but look what's happened here, right? The major operator is a hook. On the left, it remains a hook on the right. This doesn't change form, right? And then what? There exists something which is G. So as always, I translate existential statements into disjunctions. So this becomes either, G, A, or GB. Okay? Something is G, right? Okay? So pay attention to Klenk when she writes. So page 308, she starts talking about formulas of this form, right? Right, something like this. And on summing up, she says on 309, the method is the same for these ones, which are truth functional compounds of quantifier statements. The method is the same as for those containing only pure quantifier statements. You just rewrite each quantifier subformula according to your chosen domain and then look for a counterexample, right? So you're only rewriting the things that are of quantifier form. And notice how that makes a difference, right? When the actual statement is, so when the premise or the conclusion is itself in quantifier form, the form will change in the rewriting. If it's a universal statement, it'll become a conjunction. If it's an existential statement, it'll turn into a disjunction. But if the form of the premise or conclusion is say, a conditional, then after the translation it will remain a conditional. It's just the parts that will change form, because it's only the quantifier statements that change form. Okay? Let me rewrite this. This is sort of horrible and ugly, but see how we have to rewrite it. Okay, everything is both A, and if it's B, then it's D. Okay, so I rewrite the propositional function replacing the x for A, and then I will conjoin that with the propositional function being true of B, right? So this turns into a conjunction, right? My domain is set notation A, comma B, specify domain is two individuals. I'm rewriting this, okay? So it is, so the important thing is that keeping your mind on the fact that the form will change from the universal statement to the conjunction. That is true of A, of the individual A, lowercase a, and this is, and that's also true of B, lowercase b. So it's just Andrew is A and is such that if Andrew is B, then Andrew is D, right? That's true. And also uppercase A, lowercase b, right? And brackets b little b, book d, b, yes? Right? And the overall form, right? How goes with that? That's the overall form of the conjunction. You see all that? Sorry. Like so, right? Okay, another thing to say, if your premise, if you've got a statement in your argument form, a premise or conclusion, which contains an individual, as it might, right? It might have an A or a B, right? So it's got some singular statement, maybe it's a subformula, maybe it's a premise, maybe it's a conclusion. In any such cases, all you have to do is pick a domain including that individual. So I still recommend starting with a domain of two individuals, but if there is a lowercase a amongst your formulas, you just pick a domain with A in it. If there's a lowercase e, if there's something true of the individual named E, pick a domain of two individuals, A, comma, E. Easy enough. But the rewriting goes like this, right? So let me specify a domain. My domain is A and B. Okay? Everything is such that if A is F, then it is F. Anything. For each one of the people in the domain, if Andrew is F, then that person is F. That's also true of Andrew. So it's a universal statement. It's also true of A. So the first, the universal statement is going to result in, going to transform into a conjunction. It's this. My domain is A and B. F A hook F A. Right. If A is a right. You know what? Let me make this G. Sorry. Late in the day. All right. We make that G. So if A is F, then A is G, right? So I've replaced the X with A, and I've kept that in place, right? So it's that, and now I'm going to replace the X with B, right? So everything is such that if A is F, then the X is G. The X becomes B, the other individual in my domain. So the A remains A, right? So it's just F, A, hook, then B is G. Whatever that means. Okay, so that's how you rewrite it. Okay?